Hello dear students, and welcome to a very important writing lesson. And as usual, we are going to develop a new piece of writing which is very important with all students in the Sultanate, and it starts because we are teaching grade 8. So this lesson is going to be very important for grade 7, 8, 9 and even 10 and 11, because all of you are expected to develop a piece of writing, especially narrative writing. And when we talk about narrative writing, here we are talking about what? Writing stories. So many students struggle, unfortunately, with writing stories. So how can we develop a wonderful piece of writing? Now, let's get started with our lesson today in order to know a lot about writing stories. To begin with, in this lesson, you are going to develop a narrative writing, or you are going to write a story. And this is very important, as I told you before, for all students, because you are expected to write a story in the end, in your final examinations, and also with the teachers in your class tests. Okay? So, there are two types of writing stories. The first type, especially for grade 7, 8 and 9, this is the first one, which comes like this one with instructions, and you are going to write a story of at least 60 words based on the following pictures. So here we have what? We have different pictures, and you need to look at these pictures in order to develop a story, an interesting and lively story. And this is one way of writing stories, by looking at the pictures, using the words that come in the box provided here, and use these words in order to develop your story. So the question says, or the instructions, you can use the words in the box, which means these words. You can also put in more details to make your story lively and interesting. This is one way of writing stories. Sometimes, or recently, they have come with a different type of writing stories by giving you instructions or like the situation, and you need to develop a story based on that situation. For example, like this one. So there is no story, no pictures here. Sorry. So there is no pictures here. You are going to complete the following task. And the task says, write a story about the best place you ever went to. Why did you like it so much? So based on this question or instructions or statement, you are supposed to develop a story. Good. But the question is, how can I develop a story based on pictures or based on a situation like this? First of all, what you should know in writing stories, that especially for the pictures, for this question that we have here, you need to read the instructions carefully. And this is very important. You need to understand the question, whether with pictures or with situations or instructions. You need to read it carefully and understand the question. Next, read the words provided in the box. You need to understand these words in order to write a story. And this is very important. Like, you have to know, for example, the meaning of each word, and and also maybe the part of speech. And also decide what words go with which pictures. For example, if we have like this picture, we need to decide what is the best word that is suitable for this picture. Good? And for the next picture. So you have like 6 pictures, and you need to just try to use your imagination. استخدم خيالك دائما في كتابة القصص. Okay? And we will go to that in a minute. Good? So try to read, understand, and also give names. And this is very important, because every story has like what? They have like characters. And when we have characters, it means that that we have characters, لدينا شخصيات. These characters should be given names. لازم تعطى أسماء. And after you decide on the characters, let me write it here. Writing stories, whether with pictures or with situations. The first thing that you need to do is to develop your characters. Try to use any character. You can include your friend, for example, Ali or Fatima, or you can include your parents, your father, your mother, or you can include yourself as a character in the story. ممكن تدخل نفسك في القصة كشخصية. Okay, so this is very important. Try to use or try to identify the characters of your story. Then, after you find the characters, try to think about the time and the place. الزمان والمكان. Okay, so we call it in English setting, which is time and place. Good. And also you can describe the weather. الطقس، حالة الطقس. For example, it was a cloudy day, or it was a sunny day. It was very hot, for example. Good. So these are the most important elements that should be included in every story, whether with pictures or with instructions. Good. Then try to think of like a question. This question through which you can grab your reader's attention. يعني حاول تجذب انتباه القارئ من الجملة الأولى. Okay, so for example, you can ask a question. You can talk about things in general. For example, I have been a fan of adventures. So one adventure or one experience that happened to me was, and then you can develop your story. Or for example, you can say, you can start your story in this way. Have you ever had like an experience that you will never forget? This is a question. That's exactly what happened to us 3 months ago, for example. That's exactly what happened to us 3 months ago. كأنك تقول يعني شي مرة جاتك تجربة لن تنساها، هذا بالضبط الذي حصل لي. For example, 3 months ago. You can change the number here. You can change the number 3. You can say 4, 5, 6. And you can change the period of time. Instead of months, you can say weeks, أسابيع. Or you can say years. Good. So this is like a short introduction to your story. And then when you start your story, this is the introduction, you can start like using this one. For example, you can say one day. Or you can say 3 years ago or 3 months ago, because we are talking about 3 months. And then you start developing your events. Events تعني أحداث. Events. I will write it here. Good. The most struggling things with students is developing the events. الطالب يعني كيف يطور أو يجيب أحداث. As I told you, you need to use your imagination. استخدم خيالك أول شيء. Then, in order to develop events, عشان تجيب أحداث, try to think of verbs. Verbs, أفعال. متى ما كانت معك أفعال, صارت معك أحداث. Why? Because every event or every sentence must have a verb, and then try to develop a subject, who did that verb or who did that action, and also the object or the complement of that action. Good. So this is how we develop events. For example, without reading or writing the story, let's have a look at this one. We have here a zoo. So what is the verb that come to your mind for this one? For example, decide. And remember this, that you have to or you must, in order to develop events, عشان تجيب الأحداث استخدم دائما الفعل الماضي دائما. Okay? Try to use the past tense in order to develop your events. For example, for this picture, we can say decided. So the family or my family or my parents and I, that is me, for example, عامر, okay? My family and I decided, and then continue بمعنى قررنا, نحن قررنا, okay? Decided to do what? Decided to go to the zoo. Very simple. Very simple sentence. Try to think about the verb. Whenever you get the verb, you will develop an event. Good. Then we have here what? Look at this picture. What is the verb that comes to your mind that describes this picture? Look at it, please. They looked happy. So they enjoyed. Okay, so this is the verb. Okay. Or they had fun. You can say like this, had fun. Good. And then try to bring the subject and bring the complement to the story. Good, guys. What happened here? Look at this boy. He was enjoying watching the monkey. And here are his parents. So he tried to be away from them. So he walked. Excellent. So here we have the verb walked. Who walked? Who is the subject here? The boy or me. I walked away from my family in order to watch a monkey. This one. Good. Or you can say, I walked away from my parents. Then, look at this sad boy. Excellent. So here we have lost. We have already used family, lost. And we have used animals. The boy was lost. مفقود. ضائع. Lost. Why? Because he was away from his parents. So, because it's crowded and he got lost. Then, who is this? This is the zoo keeper, and it's written here. Okay, what happened? Look at this. Give me the verb. Only the verb. Met, for example, التقى. So we can develop two sentences in this picture, by the way. Why? Because the first sentence was lost. The boy was lost. Then the zookeeper met the boy crying. Or we cannot say, maybe we can delete met, the verb, and we say found. The past tense of the verb find. يجد. من الذي وجده? The zookeeper. So we can use found. Look at the verbs. They are very simple, by the way. Enjoyed, had fun, walked, was lost, found. Good. And then for the last one, they found, again, maybe you can use found, his family. Okay, and this is walk away. You can use walk away with this picture because he walked away, and they found the parents, and then what happened? My father thanked the zookeeper. شكره. Okay, thank, this is the verb. Thanked the zookeeper. Found. Okay, so with each picture we can develop an event, right? So you can use this way in order to develop your events. So you can develop your introduction, but then how can you develop your events? As I told you, don't worry about this. Just develop your characters, time and the place, the weather if possible, and then try to use different verbs with different pictures and try to develop or write your story. Good, guys? Then, for this situation or for this example that we have here, this is another example which is without any picture, only the instructions. Last summer holiday, you went on a trip and you visited lots of interesting places there. It was the memorable trip. كانت أكثر رحلة عالقة في ذهنك ما تقدر تنساها. In your life. Write about it. Write about your trip. Okay? In this trip, you visited lots of interesting places, and this is what I meant by understanding the question. Read every single word in the instruction in order to understand it. So here we have, you are in a trip, okay? And you, in this trip, you have visited different places. Good. So here I need to think about places. What are the places? For example, the mountains. For example, I went on a trip to Nizwa. Good. And when I went to Nizwa, I will think about the places that are in Nizwa. For example, like the mountains. And also, for example, the souks. The traditional souks of Nizwa, and also about the forts or the historical forts or the historical places, الأماكن التاريخية في نزوة. Good. So here, think about the question. Try to use your imagination. In this way, whenever you understand the question, you will develop like a clear image of your story, and it will become like very easy to you. So we have the time already, because it's already mentioned in the text, last summer holiday. This is the time. إجازة الصيف الماضية. Okay? And you were on a trip. I think the story is already here. Okay? You just need to mention the characters, the time, and the time is already mentioned, last summer holiday, and the place, for example, Nizwa, Suhar, Musandam, Salala. You can choose any place that you like or you know a lot about, and then you think about the different places that you need to write about in your story. Good. And then you start your story in the same way. For example, have you ever had an experience that you will never forget? That's exactly what happened to me last summer holiday, which is this one. One day in our last summer holiday, we went, my friends and I, شخصيات طبعا, my friends and I went on a trip to, for example, let's say to Sur. Good. We went to Sur, and we have visited different interesting places there. First, we had visited, or we visited, we use the past tense, of course, we visited the bridge, and then we took like a fishing boat, and we explored the sea nearby, for example, or we explored, or we visited different places that are close or around Sur. Good. We went to the beach. We played football there. We had camping. Can you think about these places or these things? Try to use your imagination only. It's very easy. Especially writing stories is very easy for students, but you need to be creative. Okay. Some students, بعض الطلاب والطالبات لديه صعوبة في سرد اللي هي الأحداث. Okay, with the events. How can I overcome this? Write. Practice. You need to practice from now. You need to practice. You need to write from now. You don't have to wait until the end or to the last or the final exams and then you will start writing your story. This will affect you and this will affect your grades with your teacher. Try to start writing from now and show it to your teacher. You have a teacher in your class. Teacher, I have developed this piece of writing. It is a story about, and show him or her the question. And then the teacher will start marking your paper and give you the feedback. This will help you because from time to time you will become excellent and you will have the skill of developing stories and writing stories. Good, guys? Now, let's go back to our story here. And we will finish writing our story. We have already developed our events here. And we will start writing the story. And you need to pay attention to this, please, that your story should be in paragraphs in order to look interesting and in order to look well structured. Okay, منظمة تنظيم حلو. Good. So we will start like this. Have with our introduction. Have you ever had an experience that you never forget? Now I need to think about the time. I will say that's exactly what happened to us. For example, let's put the time last year or last summer holiday. Last summer holiday. Good. After you put this, move forward to talk about the event. And you will start a new paragraph in this way. For example, one day. Okay, I will change this. Last summer holiday. Good. One day. Why I put it in red? Because the blue one, you can use it with any story. But the red one, you can make it different from story to another, okay? So one day what happened? And when we go back to the story, decided. Good. So my family, we will write my family and I decided to what? To go where? To go to the zoo. Okay? Then we have what? We have enjoyed or had fun. We enjoyed, sorry, looking different animals there. Good. And then what happened? If you look at the next picture, we have walked away, which is this one, okay, in the books. But I need to put it in the past tense, walked away. A few minutes later, we can use like these transitions, because transitions are very important in order to move from one event to another. For example, I can say a few minutes later. بعد عدة دقائق, what happened? I walked away from my family. Good. Sorry. And then what happened? I was lost. Very easy. So you need to create a problem. Can you see this? In this story, there is a problem. What is the problem? And in every story that you see in your life, that there is a problem created. And the problem here in this story, that this boy was lost. هذه المشكلة, مشكلة القصة. And then after, as a writer, أنا الكاتب أو أنتم الكتاب, you need to create a problem. Think of a problem. حاول تفكر في مشكلة. Okay? Try to raise this problem. And then try to, until you raise this problem in your story, then as a writer, try to create your solution. بعدين فكر في اللي هي الحل لهذه المشكلة. أنت خلقت المشكلة وأنت تخلق الحل. Okay? In this way you can make your story interesting and lively. راح تكون قصتك جدا ممتعة. Why? Because there are different events in the story. Good. So after we finish picture number 3, what happened? The boy, or I was lost. Or I can start a new paragraph. Suddenly, فجأة. Okay? This can make your story like something happened. Okay? Suddenly, what happened? Suddenly, okay, I was lost. أنا ضعت. And I started to cry. بدأت بالبكاء. Okay? So, I was lost and started, very easy verb, started to what? To cry. Good. Then, after I cried, the zookeeper, this guy, then I can use the word then. وبعد ذلك, then the zookeeper, what is the verb? Found me crying. And قرر مرة ثانية أستخدم الفعل قرر, decided, and he decided to do what? He decided to help me. Very easy. He decided to help me. Very good. It's very easy story, and just try to use your imagination. بعض الطلاب يقول لك أنا أكذب في القصة. لا, it's not about lying. It's about using your imagination. And many stories, movies that you see in the TV, they are all from the writer's imagination. كلهم من مخيلات الكاتب. And this is one way of being a creative writing, and to develop stories in this way. Try to use your imagination. Good. So the zookeeper decided to help me. Okay, what happened next? The solution. This is the solution, by the way. And the zookeeper, finally, I will start our last paragraph with this one. Finally, what happened? The zookeeper found my parents, or we found my parents, and he took me with them. Good. Took. Very easy verb. Took. أخذني. Okay. أخذني إليهما. He took me to them. Okay. Afwan. And then what happened in the last picture? My father thanked the zookeeper for this help. My father was, we can add like he was very happy. Very easy. Or the family was very happy. So my father was very happy and he thanked the zookeeper for his help. This is the end of the story. And as you can see here, please look at the story. It is divided into 4 paragraphs. 4 فقرات. The introduction, the body paragraphs, and the conclusion. This is the conclusion, which started with finally. Or in conclusion, in the end, we can add. Okay? I will put in the end because I feel like it's better, okay? In the end. Okay? So, as you can see, if you look at these things, which are phrases and sentences which are written in blue, these can be used in different stories. So you can like use them in different stories, and especially these ones. One day, a few minutes later, suddenly, فجأة, then, وبعد ذلك, in the end. All these, we call them transitions because we move from one event to another. ننتقل من حدث إلى آخر through using these transitions. And even the reader, who is your teacher, will be happy if he or she looks at your story and reads your story, which is developed in this way. Also, you need to put this in mind that many students don't keep spaces in order to make your writing very clear and readable so the teacher can read your story. Try as much as you can to keep spaces between words. حطوا مسافة بين كلمة وأخرى. حتى لو كان الخط ضعيف ممكن شوي، ولكن مع الوقت راح يتطور. بس حطوا مسافة بين كلمة وأخرى عشان يقرأ من قبل المعلم أو المعلمة. Okay? And try this one. When you start your paragraph, لما تبدأ الفقرة, try to put a space of 1 word or 2 words. يعني حطوا مسافة كلمة أو كلمتين قبل كل فقرة. وبعدين تكملة الفقرة راح يكون من بداية السطر. Why? In order to make the paragraph clear to the teacher. Okay? يعني هو يعرف ان هذه فقرة. طيب? And if we look at the verbs, every sentence that we have, like it has like a verb. Decided, enjoyed, walked, was, started, found, decided again, found again. No problem with using the verbs more than once, no problem. Took, was again, thanked. Good. So all these are verbs in the past. كلها أفعال في الزمن الماضي. Look at them. They are very easy. And I'm sure if you learn from now, don't say that I cannot write a story. You can write a story, and I'm sure about this. Try to write a story even with one paragraph or two paragraphs, and then try to write more sentences, okay, with the feedback and the comments from the teacher and support from your family, your friends, or your teacher. You will be a creative writing. Good. So we don't want, as teachers, we don't want the blank papers that in this section. We want to see the paper full of words and stories, because I want to enjoy reading your stories. Good, guys? I think this is the same thing that you can do with the same topic like this one. You can develop your writing by writing verbs. And then once you give the verbs, you prepare the verbs here, okay? Then you will start writing your story. Okay, guys? So by now, I think you all know how to write stories, and I'm sure that you will develop different types of stories. Try to look at the previous exams, okay, and try to read and write stories for different or particular questions. This will help you very much in order to develop your skills. Good? I'm waiting for your stories, and I hope to see your stories. This is, I think, now we have reached to the end of our lesson today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was useful for you as students. Stay safe, and see you soon in the coming lessons, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.